Hey all, welcome to Monday. Welcome to Countdown Day. Kind of a simple one, I think, this week with the top 10 versions of Ratchet. Now, this could have been a vote of any kind of plastic release of him across any line or any appearance of him in fiction. When you think of Ratchet, what's the first thing that pops in your head? For some people, it'll be a particular figure. For some people, it'll be a particular characterization and a particular fiction. So what are the top 10 versions of Ratchet all across all of that? That's going to be our focus, according to voters, this time around in the latest GotBot Counts Down. Hey all, welcome back to the channel. I'm your host, your most humble of hosts, Dennis Moulton, aka GotBot. As always, please like, comment, share, of course subscribe, and while you are at it, light 'em up, baby. Hit that notification bell, please. It helps me out a ton and lets you know when content of all sorts goes up here on the channel. Check out Machinery of Man, The Everything Factor, all the groups that I'm either a mod or an admin for, as well as all of my social media links. All of that's in the description down below. Also in the description down below, and if you're in a position to help the channel to grow, you can use the donate link. Check us out on Patreon. See what we have to offer to you through Spring, or of course hit the join button at any given time and become a channel member. And we're going to kick things off with our honorable mentions. They include Shattered Glass Ratchet, the mad scientist of the evil Autobots. Earthrise Ratchet, I'm not going to lie, that probably would have been my vote because I think it's probably the best plastic iteration, and I think it's a really good homage to the G1, but that's just me. I don't vote, but that's what I would have voted for. The Magic Square version, and thanks to a late vote, the War for Cybertron Fall of Cybertron version. Probably explicitly the Gamer Edition that's up and coming. You know, I think that's probably why a lot of people had him fresh on the mind. So those are the 4 honorable mentions. They had the same number of votes. They did not make the list. Who did? What did? You know what we're going to do? We're going to do as we always do and kick things off with a good old number 10. First, kicking us off at number 10, we go with this version of Ratchet. That's right, it's the Netflix War for Cybertron in-fiction version of Ratchet, and a lot of people said that the reason, or the voters I should say, that chose him, said that the reason that they chose him was very simple. He was a doctor to his core. Yes, he was sort of jaded, yes, he was sort of grumpy, but he stood by his oath of being a medical professional regardless of the faction. It didn't matter if you were Autobot, Decepticon, mercenary, whatever. If you were a bot in need, then he was someone that was going to give you the help that you need. A lot of people said that is a very admirable personal trait. He kept himself outside of all of the conflict and focused on helping others. And for that reason, Netflix War for Cybertron Ratchet, that in-fiction version, takes the number 10 slot. Coming in at number 9 is this version. It's the IDW version. We all know my thoughts on IDW. I'm not going to go through it again. I can only relay what people said when they voted. They said that he had a lot of great story arcs and character development, which I can't possibly see how, but that's what voters said. And they also said that, a couple of them said, and I found this very strange, that it's like Transformers Prime Ratchet cranked up to 11. I don't know if I want Ratchet cranked up to anything. He's a doctor. I don't know. I'm sure that I wouldn't like this version because I don't like this company, but I can't argue with the voters, and enough of them gave the reasons of character development, story arc, and cranking up the kind of personality of Transformers Prime Ratchet to an 11. Those are the reasons fans gave. Whether you agree with them or not is a whole different story, but enough of them think that way that he was able to take the number 9 slot. Coming in at number 8 is Live Action Universe Ratchet, and specifically Dark of the Moon. I know this isn't the Dark of the Moon coloration, but you know, it is what it is. I'm just using them as the live action version, and I say specifically Dark of the Moon because a lot of people said live action, and then a lot of them specifically said Dark of the Moon. However, while that's probably the most popular coloration, a lot of the same character traits live over, saying that, you know, he was intelligent, he was capable, he was a doctor, he was kind, he was wise, but he was also brave and a skilled combatant when he absolutely had to be. And not for nothing, but a lot of people also said that when he finally met his demise at the hands of Lockdown, he was so confused and so scared, and it really made them feel pity for a character that they had grown to know and love across 3 previous films. I think he's a unique take on Ratchet for sure, but I still think he was one that captured the hearts and minds of a lot of fans, a lot of new fans, a lot of young fans. And when he was unceremoniously taken out, as he was, it really helped solidify just how evil Lockdown and his, associates were in Age of Extinction. Yeah, live action Ratchet, for all those qualities, according to the fans that voted for him, they thought that he was the best. And you know what? Enough of them feel that way that he was able to come in at the number 8 slot. Coming in at number 7, we have the Siege version of Ratchet. Now, we talked about the in-fiction version of him with the Netflix War for Cybertron trilogy at number 10. And now here at number, just make sure I'm in the right place, 7, we have this guy. The votes for him, I took them as the votes for like the actual plastic representation. And people said, look, he has a great silhouette that matches the Netflix show and, honestly, pretty good match for G1. He has a Cybertronian mode that makes sense. It's not a goofy Cybertronian mode so much as, yeah, I could see how that could be translated into an Earth mode that looks like that Vanette. They also said, while he doesn't have the one box, he does have the ability to open up his back and have the repair bay as if the one box is built into his body. And he comes with all these cool accessories. Great look, excellent articulation, a ton of features. What's not to like about Siege Ratchet? He takes the number 7 slot. Number 6 is an oldie but a goodie with this version. That's right, it's the G1 cartoon version. And a lot of people said, look, when Ratchet was taken out in the 86 movie, like, it was one of the characters that, got killed off that they missed the most because he was, always kind of a helpful inventor to characters like Perceptor and Wheeljack. He was obviously a doctor, and while he had a bit of a gruff exterior, he always had the best interests of his patients at heart. He was a great doctor, had a great bedside manner, was a great character. And by the way, not for nothing, but the picture right here, for all the people that complain and say, the Earthrise one has the top come off, that's no good. It's actually a feature. It is, as you can see here, the one box. And when I brought the one box up to people, they said, yeah, but it wasn't in the cartoon. It was. In fact, the picture here of Ratchet with it out and deployed was in More Than Meets the Eye, I want to say part 2. Like it was literally right at the beginning of Transformers. Also, Ironhide used his one box on the program twice, but he never deployed it. It was always still attached to him when he used it. That's why I personally like the Earthrise version, because it gave us the one box. If you don't see that as a feature, or you don't remember the one box, then I understand why that might not be a version of Ratchet for you. Nevertheless, the G1 cartoon, he was the first and, for many people, the best, and it takes the number 6 slot. And now a hush falls over the crowd because we've reached the ever-coveted, ever-popular halfway mark. And at the halfway mark, we have this version. Kind of. This is a picture and a review of a KO of Masterpiece Ratchet that was on loan to me by a good friend of the channel, Justin from the 3D Corner. Rest in peace, my friend. He passed away recently, unfortunately. I digress. And I'm using this picture because the vote was for Masterpiece Ratchet. And the only reason that I'm using this picture is because it still looks like the Masterpiece, but the review of this KO was a particular disaster. Normally I say the KO is, comparable, about as good as the official, but in this case it absolutely wasn't. I have to believe that the transformation, especially of the arms and shoulders of the official, has to be smoother than this one because it was really janky. I have to believe that the official doesn't have like scratches and dirt that's like grated into plastic like the KO does. And I even got to believe that, I think it's the back bumper that's on his heels when he's in robot mode, like that's able to move. Part of the transformation has that moving, but it didn't move on the KO. If you haven't seen my KO or my review of the KO MP Ratchet, go back and check it out because that thing was a disaster. And I gotta believe that that is a case where the actual MP stands head and shoulders above it. Speaking to the actual MP, tons of accessories. He has the one box. He has all the tools and blasters. He has the correct silhouette. He has the correct head sculpt. I'm not an MP guy, but you know what? Hard to argue with both modes, vehicle and robot, and all the accessories and everything else. Hard to argue with the accuracy, and for a lot of people, the size of Masterpiece Ratchet. He takes the number 5 slot. Coming in at number 4, we go all the way back to Marvel G1. Ah, that's right, Marvel G1 with that version of Ratchet. And of course, the Marvel G1 Ratchet had a lot of story arcs. I'm not really familiar with the comics, I'm not going to lie. But I'm, again, gonna, much like with the IDW version, I'm gonna relay what the voters said. They said he had a lot of story arcs. They said he had so much adversity, but he kept going and kept trying to rise above and be a respectable character and a doctor. They talk about him resurrecting the Autobots pretty much single-handedly, finding the missing Dinobots, being fused with Megatron and breaking away even though they were still bonded mentally, and apparently he defeated Megatron not once, but twice. Ratchet, man, he can do it all. At least the Marvel Comics version could. And for that reason, and according to voters, or for all those reasons, and according to voters, Marvel Ratchet takes the number 4 slot. Number 3 is one of my personal favorites with this guy. That's right, it is cranky old animated Ratchet. I've reviewed Cybertronian mode and an Earth mode, and yeah, he's like your typical, doctor who's seen some stuff and things. He's been at this a long time. He's an old school type of doctor. He'll get you fixed up. But you know what? It might not be the cleanest work, but you're gonna be safe. You're gonna be healthy, right? He is your kind of typical curmudgeon of like, I know what I'm doing. Follow my advice. And I think that became sort of a bit of an archetype for him. Like, I think that they took the sort of gruff nature of the G1, amped it up for animated, and I think that lasted across many other iterations of Ratchet, to the point now that him being kind of gruff and kind of grumbly is really a part of his charm. And I think the most, I don't want to say the first, but I think the most prominent example of him having that kind of, gruff exterior would probably be animated. For that reason, classic grumpy old doctor, animated takes the number 3 slot. Now, number 3 and number 2 were actually really close. I honestly thought that animated Ratchet might take the number 2 slot. In fact, number 3 and number 2 are separated by 4 votes. That's how close and competitive the voting was. Number 2 is Studio Series 86. And a lot of people said he's perfect. Now, come on, let's be realistic here. He's not perfect. He's good. And here's what I will say. He's very good. He captures the silhouette of the robot mode excellent. He captures the Vanette mode quite well, though the back window is longer than it should be. It should be a bit shorter, and not for nothing, when we have the battle damaged version, the back window is only half painted in to kind of mimic that. Also, he doesn't have a one box that can detach or a one box built into him. He just doesn't have a one box. And while this does look a lot like his G1 blaster and the blaster that's stored in the one box, he has 2 of them and they're not quite right, and he doesn't come with any of the tools. No red stripe, though I did put one on, and while I understand no crosses up here and they put these symbols up here, and I can live with that, why didn't you put them on the door in vehicle mode as well, where they're also supposed to be? My point being that this guy's excellent, but I think those that actually voted for him as perfect probably haven't done a close enough analysis. In terms of being a Voyager, I think all of those things could have been fit in. That all said, the articulation is excellent, the overall look and silhouette is fantastic, the head sculpt is amazing, and the transformation, while I was initially hard on it, I did a short sometime after where when in Vanette mode, if you struggle to start the transformation because it's uncomfortable to kind of start pulling at the chest, start from the back, because if you kind of crack all of that almost and get that started, guess what? Actually, you split the legs a little bit. Once you kind of do that and get everything started, everything kind of comes apart pretty smooth, which made me see and appreciate the overall transformation in a brand new light, to the point where I now think it's pretty darn brilliant. I see the good, I see the bad, but the voters see perfection or pretty close to it, and that's why Studio Series 86 Ratchet takes the number 2 slot. And now the very tippy top, number 1. And number 1 won by a landslide. The difference between number 1 and number 2 was about 50 votes. Won by an absolute landslide. I assume that because of the way people voted, that really they were referring this character's in-fiction representation, and it's Transformers Prime Ratchet. Now, this is my custom painted up Beast Hunters version, and just out of interest's sake, there was 1 vote, I think, for the Beast Hunters version. But overall, the Ratchet in Prime, everybody said, look, Jeffrey Combs, or Combs, I'm not sure how he pronounces his last name, to be honest with you. I always think it's Combs, but around here, in my neck of the woods, and my province. When we see that last name, we pronounce it Coombs. But I think it's Combs. I think it's Jeffrey Combs. Brilliant actor, voice actor. Loved him as Wayoon. I've loved him in so many things. He voiced Ratchet fantastic. People that voted for this almost immediately said that they loved his interaction with Bulkhead. Almost immediately said, hey, he was, you know, wise and protective of his, you know, his people and his crew. Almost immediately said that besides for being a doctor, he was also an avid scientist and really good with technology. Said that he had great character depth and development, especially his guilt over B's voice box. And of course, they almost immediately said, Transformers Prime Ratchet. Why? Because Bulkhead, I needed that, right? I mean, it's his catchphrase, right? A lot of people said, look, what they did is they took elements of the G1 Ratchet, they took elements of the G2 Ratchet, and they put it in the super capable hands of Jeffrey to bring it to life. And he really did enough that a lot of people, if you don't think G1, a lot of people kind of immediately then go to the Transformers Prime Ratchet. The character, and not for nothing, but the deluxe class offering, whether it's the Beast Hunters or the original, is also a pretty great Transformer. Yeah, Transformers Prime Ratchet, in fiction, in plastic, pretty great, and he takes the #1 slot. And man, that's 10 down to 1 once again. Holy Moses. What else did we have here? New Age and New Age version 2. The BotCon Custom Class one had a vote. I think that was input. But that was a great vote. I remember that one. The Unite Warriors version, that's a limb of, I don't know, one of the Autobot combiners from Combiner Wars. But it was like a reuse of like the First Aid mold, which is a great Ratchet, honestly. Never came out in North America. Studio Series Bumblebee. They didn't say which one, so oh, sorry, Studio Series Bumblebee Ratchet. There you go. The iGear Ratchet. The NPM Ratchet. The NPM Dark of the Moon version of Ratchet. The Universe 08 Ratchet. I get that the Universe Ironhide Ratchet mold gets a lot of hate, but I'm not gonna lie. I liked it fine at the time. It hasn't aged well, but at the time, I didn't have the waist issue and stuff that a lot of people did. And while I thought the range of motion on some of the joints and stuff, and the whole puzzle nature of the side of the vehicle looked a bit wonky, honestly, at the time, it was like, it's still the best looking robot going thus far. Is there room to improve? Tons. But you know what? I was happy to have it at the time that I had it. The Hot Soldiers, another excellent one. And what about this one? The G1 release, but with like the head and arm upgrade kits. Those and even a few more Ratchets had votes. Let me know if your favorites made the list. Did it make the honorable mention? Did it make kind of the overview here at the end? Or did it not factor in here at all? What's your favorite Ratchet? I appreciate you guys coming by, giving me some of your extremely valuable time. I do know how important it is to you. If you're in a position to help the channel to grow, you can use the donate link, check us out on Patreon, see what we have to offer to you through Spring, or of course hit the join button at any given time and become a channel member. While you're at it, hit the subscribe button. Stick around, man. Have some fun with us here on the channel. And don't forget, not for a moment, not for a second, that you right there, you do make a difference in the world. And I look forward to the next time that you and I get together to have another visit, either in the live streams on Thursday nights at the stop motion premieres, or the old-fashioned way right here inside the videos.